So hi everybody, I'm joined today by a lovely lady called Roisin, and Roisin is actually the mum of our adolescent client who we actually did another podcast with, our 16-year-old adolescent, and he was 19 stone coming into us. He's lost 6 stone, had no confidence, people were laughing at him, assertiveness not good, very depressed, very down, and he shares his story on the podcast and he's very open, and I'm very grateful to him for coming in. So do have a listen to that one. And I have his mum now with me for this podcast, Roisin. You're very welcome, Roisin. Thank you for coming in. And I'm a mum myself, and for any mums out there, or you don't even have to be a mum, you might know of somebody or adolescents or children who need to lose weight. Are you okay to share your story of how this all started? So did Owen come to you? Did you go to Owen? Have you always discussed his weight, or what way did it happen?
Yeah, no, first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast. I think as Owen spoke about earlier in his own podcast, it was something that we had spoken about as a family, and I think as a parent you walk a fine line in trying to highlight to your child that, you know, there's an issue around his weight, and you're conscious of not pushing it too much, but also very conscious of the fact that they're hurting hugely because of their self-image, and of some of the things that they feel they can't do themselves. So I remember the time that Owen spoke about at that match in Rathout. I was actually there myself. I was absolutely horrified by the comments that Owen had received, because I had heard them myself, from you know, the young kids that were there, and also from the parents, and also from the coaches of the other team. And as a parent, to see your child hurt like that, it's so upsetting. But at the same time, you know, you have to do everything you can to get the help that they need. And so after that, I had sat down and I said, look, Owen, I am going to do everything I can in my power to get you the help that you need. And myself and Owen's dad were separated. So we had the added pressure of trying to help Owen across 2 different households. And so it was really about getting the whole family on board, including his sister, to help get Owen onto this journey. But the biggest issue was we had nowhere to go. And I remember ringing the doctor and saying, like, is there a program that I can get Owen onto to help with this? Because I knew it wasn't just food. I knew that there was other, you know, issues there for Owen in terms of the binge eating. And as much as you try to stop them going, you know, Owen, you're after having a dinner, do you really want to eat that? Like, it is such a fine line. And so you're trying to juggle all of the emotional as well as the physical aspect for what he was going through. And I remember being told, yes, there's a program in Ireland, and it was in Temple Street Hospital. There was a 2-year waiting list, and I had nowhere else to go. I didn't know what else to do. So I decided to ring the Hermitage, and Owen attended a program there. But the problem was it wasn't weekly. It was one-on-one, but it wasn't all encompassing. It wasn't looking at the physical and the mental side of why Owen was eating the way he was. And so I remember thinking, there has to be somewhere else that I can bring him. And a friend of mine had gone to Motivation Clinic in Maynooth. And I remember I asked her, do they take adolescents? And she goes, Russian, I don't think so. Because at the time Owen would have been, he wouldn't have been 16. And I remember making the phone call to the Motivation Clinic and talking to one of the ladies and going, I have, you know, this adolescent, I really need to get him into some sort of a program And they said, look, leave it with us, we'll ring you back. And then they rang me back and they said, yeah, we'll take him. And I have to say, that was just like, thank God, I've somewhere to go. We can go, we can get him on a program, we can, you know, help Owen to help himself. And I remember going in that day into the Swords Clinic, and the girls were absolutely gorgeous. And they said, you know, it's a one-on-one, are you okay with that? And I was like, absolutely. I didn't want to be there. I wanted Owen to feel that he had this safe place to go and talk about all of these issues. And I didn't need to know about it, because it gave him the freedom to talk about what he needed to talk about, to really address himself. And one of the things that the girls had said to me, you know, does Owen want to do this, or Mum, are you bringing him because you want him to do this? And I think that is so important. The kids have to want to do it themselves. Otherwise, it's never going to work. And I think trying to walk that fine line is really where you get to a point where you let the adolescent make that choice of, actually, I need to do this now for myself. My mom is going to help me, or my dad is going to help me, or you know, my grandparents, or whoever their support network is going to help them. But ultimately, they have to want to do it themselves. And I remember bringing Owen, you know, clothes shopping, and Owen going into fitting rooms, and Owen crying because we couldn't get clothes to fit him in a normal shop, where, you know, H&M or any of the normal shops that kids go to shop. And you know, being so hurt as a parent that I couldn't just click my fingers and fix it for him. But I knew I couldn't fix it for him. I knew he had to want to fix it, and I could help him fix it. And I think that for me was key. And it really started the journey. I remember we went in October 2018, and you know, Owen really wanted to do this himself. And I have to say, the program that you guys offer is phenomenal. I don't think there's any other program like it in the country that offers both the mental aspect of dealing with why you eat, and then, you know, the weekly check-in, the being able to go in and have that conversation, not with the parent involved, and so they have that little bit more of a freedom to talk, and then, you know, just the tools that they gave to Owen. I couldn't give those tools to Owen, because sometimes it's better coming from somebody that's not the parent, right? And so that's really what I felt. And I have to say, we religiously went every week. The girls were fantastic. And some weeks Owen would be like, oh Mum, I don't want to go this week, I haven't had a good week, and you know, I don't really want to get on that scales. And you know, it was all about, look, it could be, you know, did you hydrate enough this week? Maybe it's just a little bit of water weight. You know, you've been sticking to your diet. You don't really know what it is. Let's go, you know, and the girls will up and change whatever you need to do in terms of your portions and stuff. And they did. And I remember when Owen lost the first stone, and it was just like, you know, thank God we have a program now that's really going to be a lifestyle change for Owen, because that was what was really important. He did play rugby for Barn Hall, but I think the fact that he was carrying all this extra weight, he had, you know, joint pain in his knees, and you know, he was always getting injured and stuff, but that has completely gone now, because obviously he's lost the weight, and he's much more conscious of, you know, the consequences of the bad diet, right? And I think that's been phenomenal. But again, I could have told him all of that, but he would never have listened to me as the parent. And so having the program to be able to do that is just fantastic. And like, I don't know what we would have done without having the motivation clinic to get on to where he is now, because I do think, you know, particularly for young kids, teenagers, with the whole social media, and they're looking at everybody who's perfect, and they've all these sorts of filters that give you all sorts of, you know, you look good, or you know, build muscle, and I think they're under huge pressure now to look a certain way and to conform to a certain look, and when they don't, it's a pressure that my generation has never had to deal with, because you weren't looking at all these people on the social media, and so I think there's added pressure there. And I think, that's another aspect I think that as we have to deal with as parents, as society, is to educate our kids that what you're looking at on social media is not real. They don't 99% of the time look like this. You don't have to look like this either. But if you want to get healthy and you want to stay fit and you want to try and lose the weight, it's not just dealing on the physical side. You need to look on the mental side, and that for me was key. And it was just phenomenal. I just can't thank you guys enough for what you've done for me.
Oh, I feel like I'm going to cry. I always get emotional with these. I really do. I'm just blown away. Seriously, guys, from the emotional, as I said, there's not many people like Owen who come in, young men, 16-year-olds, who will be confident enough, I'd say, start with, to say how they feel, and particularly talk about emotions. I mean, that is such a huge thing. It's really, I'm a big softie, so this is what makes my job and all of our consultants, this is what makes it so special, is that we're helping people, and I think, back to Owen's email, that's what he wants to do, and I've no doubt he's going to go places. I think, to come back to what you said there, Roisin, with regard to the adolescent wanting to do it themselves, that is really important. And the whole thing of allowing them to come into us with permission, because we will establish a connection then, and they might say something to us. I think it's also important that the parent is involved also. And you're obviously a super, super mum. I have to say, give yourself a big pat on the back, and I'm sure Owen appreciates you big time, because the love and the care and the determination that you put into it also to stick with him. So, you actually also said it's your choice. So that adolescent audio and all the audios we have are all about that. It is your choice, and they are working on the mental weight side of things and the emotions. And I have to say, for looking at the mental weight report, when he came in first with low self-confidence, the triggers jumped out: boredom, we've talked about binging, etc. Can I ask you a question also, because this comes up quite a lot? This is interesting to hear your side of your point of view. So with some of the adolescents that we have, the parents we would see them doing really well, that the behaviours and the emotions, etc., are improving, and the weight is starting to come down. They will have slips. We say that to everybody. You're going to have slips. And then we get a phone call. This happened quite a lot, from parents to say, well, they're not sticking to it because I just found crisp packets or whatever in the bedroom or whatever. What's your feeling on that?
I mean, I think, it's such a tough journey for them. And I think, and I can only speak from my own experience with Owen. I think if I had, and I didn't, because he was so determined to stick to it. But there was the time when he'd go back in and the weight maybe had been up, maybe 2 or 3 pounds, and but Owen was always honest about what he had eaten. And I had always said to Owen, you have to do this. I can't do this for you. So at the end of the day, what you put in is going to show on the scales the next week. So you just have to make those decisions yourself. I don't think if the kids are not sticking to it, then something needs to change. It needs to be tweaked. They need to get to the bottom of, like, what is it that's triggering you to that's you're having a setback. But it's not that the journey is over. You've slipped. And next week it'll be different. And it's the one thing I would say to parents is it's just encourage, regardless of the bad days, regardless of the slippages. You have to be there to support them no matter what, and keep them focused on the bigger picture. And I think they are a generation of instant gratitude. Unfortunately, that's just the generation that they're in. Everything is instant. Like they, you know, they want something, it's instantly got on their phone. They can pay for, you know, everything is instant. And with this type of a journey, it's not instant. It is a lifestyle change for them at a very difficult time in their life, when they're also, you know, going through puberty. But I would say to any parent, if your child is on the program and you are finding that you're seeing them slipping, is really just to encourage them and really talk to them about the end goal. Like, just think about what you're going to, when you get through this. Yeah, we've all had bad days, but just think about the bigger picture. Just think about, you know, what is it that you know, is it you want to wear a certain, you know, you want to wear a pair of skinny jeans, or you want to wear a certain outfit, or whatever it is that triggers with them to keep them focused, is to try and keep them focused on the end game and not on the here and now. Because I think even as an adult, you know, myself, you know, when I've tried to lose weight, you know, we all slip. You know, we had a bad day, I'm going to have that biscuit. They're the same. But, you know, I don't have anybody then beating me up other than myself to say, you know, you shouldn't have eaten that biscuit. So I think it's really important for parents that, yes, you know, you're paying for the kids to do this program, but at the end of the day, it's not something that's going to change overnight. You have to just keep encouraging them all of the way. And I think that's the only bit of advice that I can give on that, really.
Well, I have to say, for any parents, or as I say, anyone listening to this podcast, that is super, super advice, and thank you for sharing it. And as I say, you're a wonderful mum. Give yourself a pat on the back for that. You have a lovely, lovely son who's definitely going to go places, and we might take him on board himself, and even mum might come in on board as a consultant, you never know. But thank you so much for coming in, and thank you so much for sharing your story. And just to let you know, listeners, also, we do say adolescent program. Recently we saw something, the World Health Organization is actually now claiming that adolescence is actually from the age of 10, and we do have some children from the age of 10. Again, what Roisin said is so important, that you do need to be on board with your child or adolescent. It's not about giving out or scolding or pointing out slips. We say that from the very beginning, that there's no judging here. You will slip, and positive encouragement, positive reinforcement. And I think, as Roisin said there, it doesn't happen overnight, but stick with it till the end and you'll get the results that Roisin and lovely Owen got as well. So until next podcast, take care, and we'll talk to you then.